What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa. Of course, I got my girl, Justine, co hosting this thing with me. And if you're new here, this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. We invite guests on to share their own story of how music has made a positive impact in their life, as well as their own mental health journey. Before we get into our wonderful guest today, let's take care of the business. You know how it goes. If you're loving the show, liking it, whatever, go ahead and give us a follow on any app you're listening to this right now and subscribe to us. You never know what we're going to be talking about. And like this week, we had 2 episodes, so you never know. You don't want to miss them. And if you're not subscribed, you're going to miss them. So go ahead and do that. It's a really quick thing on any app, follow button, you're all set. As well as if you would like to leave a positive rating or review on any app you're listening to right now, it really helps pump us into the algorithms, as I'm told. I don't know, but either way, we appreciate every single person that's taken the time. Thank you so much for doing that. We cannot thank you enough. Today in the show, I was joined by Anthony of Ghostly Times. I've followed Ghostly Times for a while. I wasn't really sure how we connected, but I'm really glad somehow the universe just always pulls me to musicians and bands that I will love. And this was one of those cases. So we dive in with Anthony, his early days of falling in love with music. We talk about a lot of our similar favorites from Thrice to Circa to Every Time I Die. We also talk about the Mirage EP that came out not too long ago, which has been in constant rotation for me. I think so many of you guys will really love it. And I think it's one of those things in a world of TikToks where here's a 30-second clip. We have something unique and fresh out there. And I know, like, when you hear words like unique and fresh, you're like, yeah, right. But I'm telling you, it's such a great thing to hear when we're just hearing 30-second quick clips and that's it these days. So I was really excited to get to dive into Mirage as well as talk to Anthony about it in the process. We also, of course, talk about Anthony's own mental health journey, how music has helped aided him, and we had a very similar situation as well. So there's so many amazing things to unpack in this conversation. So we'll get to it. As always, all the links below to check out Ghostly Times. Please go check them out. Give a follow to all our guests we have on. It really helps support them as well. Ghostly Times is one of them, of course. And yeah, I'm just going to shut up. Here is our conversation with Anthony of Ghostly Times. I know we followed each other for a while. I don't even know, but in liking your music, so it's so cool to have you on as someone that I really just love your music.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, like right away, like sometimes I have to dig into stuff when either a band reaches out or anything, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get in the zone to be in it. That instantly, I was like, all right, this is the vibe. Hopefully, more people come your way from it, so it's so perfect.
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the goal, I guess, right?
you're
Hopefully
right.
people they latch onto it.
Yeah, like I mean, and I know it sounds so cliche, but something we ask everybody that comes on is what were those first memories of falling in love with music for you, whether it was an artist, a record, a time, or place hearing something?
Yeah, I think it's been innate in me since I was very young. Both my parents were big music fans, and my dad tells me of times where I would stand in front of like really large old speakers and just like be like, turn it up as loud as you can, and then just dance. So I'd be like 2 years old doing that. So I've always been a fan of music. I didn't really start playing music until my late teens. Probably around 15 years old, I got my first guitar. And that was because I was just like super into metal at the time. And like Metallica was my dream band. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh my God, these people are incredible. What are they doing with music?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's like the start of it. Um, but yeah, ever since I was like 2 years old, I can remember driving in cars, windows down, music blaring. It's everything.
It is so interesting. So many people say the car. Like for me, it was the car. My mom, whether it was like Tom Petty or she was big into like Meatloaf. That was her big thing. All those bands, and then obviously Metallica. That was a big one. But it was literally riding in a car with my mom and whatever she had on, and then later exploring that. And I'm like, without that kind of 90s alternative, whatever it was, I would not like the music I love today without it. So it's so important.
Yeah, totally. My parents had pretty diverse taste or palette in music. So my mom would be listening to like the Goo Goo Dolls and Counting Crows, and my
Yeah.
dad was listening to like Led Zeppelin, Queen, Pink Floyd, like that world. And then my uncle would be listening to Pantera, Metallica, and metal. And
Mhm.
so I tapped into all those resources.
Oh, I mean, what a resources to tap into. Like you have such a great group of bands and artists to tap into versus like I know Justine, her thing was a lot of her parents, I think on their dad's side was like classical, which is great. But I know it's always interesting for her path too, to go from classical to she's like huge into like Nine Inch Nails and all that, which I mean, I love them too, but it's always interesting how those little things can take you on that. And I know another band that we share a love for is Thrice, and I know hearing them probably at a younger age impacted you. How did a band like Thrice impact your musical journey?
Yeah, I really think I was kind of on the mainstream line. I was really into like Linkin Park and I was really into
Mhm.
like Disturbed and
Yep.
kind of those like popular metalcore bands. And then bands like Thrice and Every Time I Die came around and started just like hitting me over the head with a different style. And
Yeah.
what I think I love about Thrice the most is that they're just so expansive and they continue to expand on what they deliver to the market, to the world, to themselves. And it's like a freeing feeling that you're not trapped in this like subgenre of the subgenre of the subgenre. But I remember hearing like Kill Me Quickly off of The Illusion of Safety and just being like, this is heavy,
Yeah.
but not like frantic, chaotic heavy. It was just like, there was a guttural feeling to it that was just so magical. That whole record was incredible. But yeah, I mean, I just love how they continue to grow and develop as humans and as musicians. And I definitely take that as like a path for our journey for sure.
Yeah, they're a band that I swear I know a lot of people, lost touch after Artists in the Ambulance, and that was their golden, but I swear they're a band to me that even all these years, they've just gotten better. Every release I personally love. I'm like they're like that fine wine band where if I go see them now where I saw them 20 years ago, they're just as good if not better than they were back then.
Totally. Yeah, their older songs sound new again and
Mhm.
have a different intensity to it. Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So if anyone's listening doesn't know Thrice, because I feel like anytime I talk about Thrice, there's a couple that'll jump in. Oh yeah, I like them, but other people like the younger kids that are just getting into this music, whether it's TikTok and everything, that they miss out on those bands. Or even Every Time I Die. I mean, I know we were kind of talking too. Like my thing I posted yesterday for whatever reason, someone didn't really care for them. I don't know, but bands like that were so important to us in our musical journey. So I loved when I knew that you had those mutual ones. Circa Survive too, I know is another one. It was just so cool.
Yeah, I love them. I mean, I think that the genre really cares for each other, right?
Mhm.
Specifically in like those early 2000s bands, there's a lot of crossover, there's a lot of support. You see them shouting out their peers and
Yeah.
celebrating their new releases. And, Thursday just released that new track. And,
Yeah.
you see all these other bands who are promoting that. I think that's something that I don't know that I see as much in like the modern kind of band world, but that's something that I love about this culture is that there's just like people like you and me can connect on the internet and then like
Yeah.
hop on a video call and talk about our love for music, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Thursday was another one I thought of because when they released that, it wasn't just them talking about it. There were so many of the other bands. I know Frank, obviously Ellis Dunes, but like everybody knows him from Mike Hem. He's posting about it. Anthony's, but anyone that knew Thursday or liked Thursday in a band wise, they rallied around them. And even me seeing that smaller show last weekend was crazy to see them there in that environment and just so much love in the room for this band that's been around for so long. And again, yeah, I really don't see it nowadays, but maybe again, I'm just older. I try and pay attention to the new stuff, but it just something was so golden about that era. And I think again, if no one's listened to any of these bands, go check them out because
Go check them out.
they're worth it. And they're all still touring, which is so amazing too. I mean, they're all doing stuff, which is so cool to have that.
Yeah, they paved the way, right?
Yeah.
Made
Uh,
the genre palatable for the rest of the market. So it's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and I mean, we have to talk about Mirage because your music, I mean, yes, the music that we've heard is important, but your music is and I've been loving Mirage since it came out. I am someone that literally there's no skips on it. I don't like to say, "Oh, there's skips on records," but there are some songs that resonate, but this one just front to back is just so good, and I have to ask What's been the response on your end seeing it out there finally for you?
Well, first, thank you. That
Yeah,
means so much to me, and I know like the rest of the guys who helped put this together. Um, it's been awesome. We've got a ton of really cool press and some like
yeah.
interesting comparisons. Someone said like The Cure meets Counting Crows, and I was like, that's totally not the genre that I perceive myself in, but just cool to hear names like that
Yeah.
um, thrown out. But yeah, it's been awesome. I think this record is like it encapsulates a lot of different styles and emotions and like paths in life, and it's been amazing to just kind of release it and get it out there and see what people think. So we're in week one, and we're excited to see some more press and some more shares around it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I saw that where someone said The Cure, and even I had to take another listen. I was like, "Where let me hear if I can hear this." And there are parts of it, and I know for me, a song I mean, obviously, it was the first single you dropped off it, but Not Alone, that was when I gravitated towards right away. And maybe it was liking bands like Thrice and in those type of, that genre, but it just grabbed me, and I think it can be almost like that anthem for so many people that you're not alone and it almost keep going. And I guess for you getting that out there, was it a healing in a way to get a song like that out there, especially in a time we're living now where every day there's something new going on?
Yeah, I mean, Not Alone is pretty anthemic to, personal struggles that I've had in the past. I think like as an artist, we're always in our heads. And we're always there's a level of self-doubt and self-deprecation, and we kind of go through these motions over and over again. And music is a way of kind of either combating that, healing that, or addressing it. And so Not Alone was that for me, and like meant hopefully a lot to other people feeling that same way. I wanted to give people more of like a positive spin on it, like we're not just all suffering, right? This isn't like
Mhm.
necessarily about suffering, it's about like overcoming. And so I think there's a level of mental health that we can like champion in a positive way, and I think that was the goal behind Not Alone.
Oh, absolutely. Like I hearing it and just how, there's a lyric in it. There's so much to live for, left to live for, and I think everybody can that is struggling because we all struggle, and anyone we talk to on here and talking about mental health, whether it's, something you think is small, it's big to you, and there's so many things going on, and to have a song again, I can everybody always says, "Oh, you're not alone," but to have that in music that's so powerful, right away, I was like, "Alright, I gotta get my playlist together." I've been a little behind on that, but I need to get a playlist, and for sure, that song has to be on there for that.
Very cool. Thank you. It's like a journey through, I guess, your mind, right? Musically as well. Like there's that weird kind of bridge breakdown part, which is, I guess, cathartic in a way, right? Where there's a release at the end. So it's exciting
Yeah.
to have
Oh,
it out.
yeah. Like, at a minute 55, I was like, "That's where it hits," where I like those songs that you're almost taken on this journey, and it really reminded me obviously, it's your own sound, but of I think gosh, I'm gonna blank on the song, but there's a Circa song, maybe it's Wish Resign, there's something where there's a similar thing where it takes me on the journey, and right away, I was like, "I have to write down and mark out where is this part when I listen to it," because it just is, like it's so special and unique, and it's something I haven't heard in a while, like modern music. It's all a lot of it's, TikToks. Here's 30 seconds here, here's whatever, and hearing that at a minute 55 and Not Alone, I'm gonna tell everyone just even if you stop this and come back to it, go listen to that part alone. It's so unique, and I loved that part of that song.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
Circus shout out. We love
Oh,
Circus.
oh, exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, we know that yeah, they're a band. I was talking to someone the other day, and he admittedly was a huge Circa fan, and he's like, "Oh, do we think they're coming back?" I'm like, "I don't know." I mean, look, they're all doing their thing, and I respect that, but I would be lying if I wouldn't love to see somewhere down the line we get a little taste of what they would sound like now and what they've all been dabbling in, but,
Yeah, it would be cool to see Two Dreams live, right? I don't
oh,
think we forgot that.
yeah. Oh, that was a again, that was so good, and I was like, what a way for them to go out on, but at the same time, oh, I wish I would've seen that live and had that experience instead of just listening to it through headphones.
Yeah, totally.
But And this is a song literally I had wrote down because I wanted to touch on it, but I'm like, "I'm gonna mess up the pronunciation of this song." So I literally am like, "I gotta write this down. I cannot mess this up." But I wanted to touch on petrichor, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, that's
Alright,
it.
good, because I'm like, I'm not gonna mess this up because it is a great song, and I didn't want people to get like, "What is that?" But I know you've been saying it's one of your most personal songs to date. For you, how was that to get that from pen to paper and again have that out there and obviously maybe people will resonate with it differently than how you wrote it, but having a song like that, how has that been having that out there?
It's great. I mean, I
Mhm.
think petrichor, the meaning behind the word is like the smell of the earth before it rains.
Mhm.
And I always thought that was just like such a poetic word. And, when thinking about subject matter to write songs about, I hadn't really tapped into my like personal relationship with my family and people that I loved in like a long sense or a longing sense. And so, back in my youth, my mom, single parent, I grew up with my mother and my sister. My sister eventually moved out, and it was just my mother and I. And my mother was my best friend, right? And so,
Mhm.
we grew up in West. I grew up in Western New York, and one of our favorite things to do was to sit out on our porch and watch thunder and lightning storms, and just sit there. And like, I would have an acoustic guitar, and we'd be just sitting and listening and vibing, and that's it. And that word kind of correlated with this, I guess, longing to spend more time with her and people that I love. And in the song there's like this journey where the character, myself, leaves, right? You go to pursue these things, you take your life's journey, your adulthood, your passions. And I moved to New York City, and I've been here since 2008, right? And I get to go home, but there's a lot of missing space in between. So you hope that that person that you care about and you cherish understands how much you love, how much you miss, how much you want to be there for them, and that your love is kind of infinite. It just so happens that you're not physically with that person all the time. So there's a little bit of like tempered regret in that sense, but also like a longing to show the love.
Oh, no, that I mean, that hit me right there because my mom, she moved to West Palm Beach. And right now, and even during the pandemic, it was very difficult because, with her health and everything, I'm like, I can't really fly to you. I'm here in New Jersey and going back and forth. And there's times too, like financially or whatever in the past, I hadn't been able to get out there or her here and that longing too. And I totally resonate with that too, because I love my mom. My mom's my best friend too. She's, my dad, they had gotten in a divorce and he really isn't in my life. So it's like she almost was that single parent from teenager on to now in my 30s. And, you know, again, it sucks missing her, and it's or like when I do an achievement, I'm like, "Oh, man, I wish my mom," and I hope that she always knows that I'm there and I wanna be there more and that, just it's like a weird part of me missing without my mom, and it's it makes me almost appreciate that song more hearing what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't have a defined amount of time on this planet, right? And I think there's a level of the unknown that you worry and you butt up against in these moments. And so that was like a reflection of life as it is for me now. And also just like an acknowledgement of, hey, I do want to spend more time with those people while they're still here and while I'm still here.
Yeah.
So maybe a mission statement for myself.
Yeah, because it and even a guest we just had on, Dan, and he was talking about his girlfriend's passing, and one of the biggest thing he touched on in our episode was that we think we have all the time, but we don't. And I appreciated him, one, sharing his story and his experience, but also just saying things like that because I think so many of us do think, oh, there's time. Like, I'll even say and now I'm like, I even this month, I'm like, I am booking a flight to go see my mom after that conversation because we don't have all the time in the world, and I think it's one of those things that's, like, so important for all of us to just day-to-day life to understand that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Everyone check in. check in
Yeah.
with your best friends, check in with people you haven't talked to. You never
Yeah.
know.
And I mean, obviously our podcast, goes with mental health. And that's why it's so great to have a musician like you that is talking about it in your music. And definitely we touched on Not Alone. But for you, what do you think, even in your life that you've experienced, that you would like to see with mental health awareness? I mean, obviously we know accessibility is number one. That has to be. But for you, how important is it to bring mental health awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important. I think like what I like, and not everyone likes this, is a community. I like to be around people.
Hmm.
And I think there's a level of like catharsis that happens in groups. And I think there's like a spiritual thing that happens in groups, not to say like your general deity of sorts, but like I think people have this bond that cure a lot of those things, a lot of those challenges that you have, or help you overcome a lot of those challenges, or help you identify them. So, maybe more group forums um, for mental health. And like a positive champion of it is that like if you do overcome and you continue to overcome, like there's a celebration to that. It's not just like acknowledging the struggle all the time. It's also about like celebrating the victory, right? Of continuing on and finding ways around it and finding passions around it and finding other hobbies that help and people that help. So community is just crucial. And I feel like there's a lot of digital community right now, but it'd be nice to see like the in person as well.
Yeah, because I have to say, like, there is a lot of digital community. There is it. That's how I found one of our guests, Sarah Sims, because she had this huge community of mental health. No idea that that was even going on, but it is. It's I think, and whether it's our podcast or other musicians talking about mental health, I know, people just say, "Oh, you're going to bring him up again," but Anthony Green, he's a big advocate for mental health, and even at a show I saw back in December, he was talking about his own mental health and his bipolar disorder, and other people were talking, and it was so nice to have that moment in the crowd of people sharing their stories because he had like a Q&A, which was so cool. And they were able to just talk about their own experiences in mental health and what they do, or ask him what does he do for self-care. And I think the more we have that, we're like in that little, I don't know, 250, 300 person room, there was just such a feeling of, "Hey, you're not alone," and even fans of this artist, we all feel the same, and having that, and that definitely helps.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect for him, and he's kind of a perfect arbiter of that message. He's been through significant challenges
Yeah.
in his life, and I think like he's an inspiration to a lot of people, and like people like him are advocates of it and helping. And I'm a big like UFC fan. I like
Mhm.
MMA. I'm huge into it. But there's another guy named Lyman Good who is not in the UFC anymore, but he started a mental health awareness company. I can't think of the name right now, but just like people that are championing it in different forums who are people that others look up to, I think is what we need more of. And people who seem like he's a gladiator. I think Anthony Green is like a gladiator in music, right? People
Mhm.
admire and are in awe of his talents, but to see someone of that level share that same kind of disposition, I think is super helpful. And it goes back to that you're not alone. Like everyone
Mhm.
could be experiencing it. You don't know.
Oh, yeah, and that's something we touch on all the time too, is that I had to get over, "Oh, I think this is so little. This is so little what I'm going through. I'm not gonna it's okay. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to tell anybody about it." But in reality, it was big to me, and I think that's one thing Justine was always telling me. She was always like, "You have to talk about it or get out that it's big to you." And I think so many people, I get it. It's tough sometimes sharing. Like even me when we get on the podcast, it's like, "Oh, we're gonna talk about mental health." And if I'm going through it, the last thing I wanna do is get on and talk about it, but then I notice the people that have resonated with the podcast, it's because of that, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I felt that same way." Like, I had shared how sometimes I go through that imposter syndrome with this podcast. There's times where it's like, what am I not doing? What am I doing? Am I good enough to have this or that? And it's a mental gymnastics almost, and I go through it weekly, but it's again, conversations like this or people just coming up and messaging me, "Hey, this really resonated with me."
Hmm.
It helps the more we talk about mental health, even though I know it's very hard and it's not easy to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an example of an amazing feat, this type of podcast, right? And I think, who better to do it than you, right?
Mhm.
But we don't. There's no like declaration of who's good to talk about it, who's not. Like you're doing it, right? And I think that's very difficult and something to be admired. It's very difficult to put yourself out there like that. Um, Kudos to you and
Yeah,
Justine. Because
yeah.
it's great.
Oh, I appreciate that because, like, there's the moments like that that it's like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing," or even if I'm editing something and I mess something up, but then I'm like, "You know what?" And I'll tell people, like, in an episode, "Hey, in the intro, I messed this up. I'm gonna be full disclosure. I want you to know we are not perfect, and, um, but the message is good. So I know the editing's not perfect, but the messaging is good and it's there." And I think it's so important, and I know you've touched on it a little bit, but was there any specific time in your life where music was that crutch, where maybe, in no disrespect to people around you, but a lot of people have talked about it was music to get them out of things. I know that's been me too. Has there ever been a time you can recall that music was really there for you?
Yeah, I mean, like through every breakup, right? Every
Mhm.
every
Yeah.
heartbreak. I think through
Yep.
every loss. I think like most recently, and this is still pretty fresh. I lost my uncle a couple weeks ago,
Oh.
and he was one of the reasons I started music and got into. He was the third person I referenced at the beginning. Um, he was, a daredevil. He was a cool person. He was again like a gladiator, someone that just I
Mhm.
thought was invincible. Um, and I like all kinds of music. So like I was listening to this Joyner Lucas, who's a hip hop artist, and Jelly Roll, who's like that
Mhm.
new, right? I
Yeah.
mean, everyone knows
Yeah.
him now, but this new song that like basically hits pretty hard on that. And I remember the day after finding out my uncle had passed, like going to the gym and just being on a treadmill and like playing that song on repeat and like almost having a panic attack because it was so like on the nose, but also like having this revelry in this like this rocky moment, if you will, or this champion moment of getting through. And that's just one of the many times where music has been there for me in really difficult time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, again, like, so sorry for your loss because I know it's such a I know whenever you lose someone, it's one of the things everybody says, but sometimes it's like, "Oh, okay," but truly so sorry to hear that because I've had similar things like that where I've lost someone, my grandfather, very, very close to me, and again, I credit band like Linkin Park with the day my grandfather passed. I had Meteora came out, and it was huge into Lincoln Park, and I lost my grandfather to mental illness, and he was just so important, my favorite person in my life, and but to have Lincoln Park's Meteora come out, and I remember I pre-ordered the CD, I came home, and it was just a difficult day and losing him, and then going to the mailbox and having that music, and it was just again, having a feeling of what I didn't know was a panic attack or things of that nature back then when I was a teenager, and having a voice like Chester or Linkin Park to put in, it was just so comforting. So it's when you lose people, and it's tough when there's such an important piece of your life too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that record first off is incredible, and there's
Yes.
a lot of like you can hear it in Chester. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
we know what happened there, and it's
Yeah.
really sad because you can feel the pain. It was always pretty prevalent in their music. Um, but yeah, it's a crutch for sure. It's been there, I think, through most of our lives. People who are super passionate about music,
Yeah.
it's easy to be the first thing to turn to, right? To describe your feeling that you might not be able to describe, to kind of hit a little bit deeper than maybe your logic would hit. Um, so it's great to have artists and poets who can get you there.
Yeah, and again, like, someone like Chester just, oh, just enough. I admittedly, I only got to see Lincoln Park once, but again, you could even hear it live, and it was almost like I don't wanna speak for him or anyone that knew him, but it was almost like that was his cathartic way to get everything out and be on stage and do that and to watch someone like that, and, again, he was such a huge advocate too for mental health and again, in a genre that a lot of people, it's like, "Be tough," as a man, "Be tough," and just getting out there and doing that was so special to see, and I think that's why so many people still I mean, we still honor Chester all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, when it comes to like celebrity, I'm not like a huge buy. I don't buy into like the word celebrity, but like
Mhm.
people like him, who you easily could idolize. Like I remember when I found out, I was bawling my eyes out. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this had a lot of impact on my youth and who I am and what music I like. And there's definitely some sort of influence and maybe some of the music I write. It's really it was really sad for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, even talking I mean, obviously music is a big one, but something we also like to ask too are what are those other tools you use for mental health? Because obviously music is one and probably a huge one as we talked about, but maybe if someone's looking for something and they think, "Oh, I've tried everything," but maybe someone will say something new. What do you try to do in those mental health moments that has helped you through anything? Whether it's a lot of people say exercising or reading a book or doing something they're passionate about. What is it for you besides music?
Yeah, I'd say maybe like in the past, and still present. Obviously, exercise is helpful, right? It
Yeah.
helps with endorphins. It helps release, those endorphins in your body that make you feel better. I would say anyone who's a cat lover and
Mhm.
who might be allergic to cats to get a Devon Rex because I have a 2-year-old Devon Rex and she is the light of my life. So I think like anytime I'm going through a hard time, obviously my wife
Yeah.
is very important, but I have this little fur animal who's named Telly after Telecaster guitar.
Oh, oh, I
Um,
love that.
yeah, she's just a bundle of joy and
Oh.
really an affectionate animal and like a puppy, but a cat.
Mm.
So
I
she
ha
has her boundaries too.
I have to try that because I'm allergic to cats, and I hate that I'm allergic to cats because I always am that person, if I go in someone's house, I'm like, "I know there's a cat somewhere, I can just do it," and I hate because I love animals. I have my little squirrels I feed outside, and I wanna
Mhm.
get a dog, and I wanna do all that and have a pet and a companion because 'cause I've been told it's so great for your mental health. Justine has cats and dogs and swears by it, but I'm so allergic, so maybe I will have to get something and try and I know people say, "Oh, get the shots." But I'm like, "Oh, I don't really wanna do that," but maybe your type
Yeah.
of cat is gonna be one of those things maybe I have to try.
Yeah, there's 10 breeds of cats that are hypoallergenic and like your allergy comes from the saliva when they lick their fur
Mhm.
and it creates a protein and some cats create more of it, some cats create less. But Devon Rex is one of them. We like cat sat my bassist's cat and she was a
Yeah.
Devon Rex. And I was like, well, I don't have itchiness. My
Yeah.
throat isn't closing up. My nose is not weird. My
Yeah.
eyes aren't itchy. Perfect. We found the right cat breed.
Oh my gosh. Alright, so anyone else listening, I gotta go check out Devon Rex. I gotta go check out this type of cat and just come home with it and be like, "My fiancé, sorry, we have a cat now. This is just life. We
Do
we
it.
gotta do it." Um
Do it.
But I know we're in obviously this new year. I can't even believe we're 2024 now, and you just released Mirage. I know it's probably odd to be like, what is on the way? Before you, is there anything on the way, whether it's live shows or anything else this year that you would like to accomplish with your music?
Yeah, I mean, this record is 7 years the senior of our debut. So it's been a long time since we released anything. We had a single that we released, a year after we released our full length, when all that's left is gray. But this is like post COVID, post band kind of disbanding or moving to different places. Um, and so I would like to put the band back together. That's a goal for me and to start playing some Northeast shows. I think there's a couple other bands that I'm working with on like producing them. So I'd love to produce more bands this year. I think me personally, that's definitely something I want to do more of. And releasing this body of work has unlocked that kind of creative juice again. So I'm literally like in my studio all the time, writing new things right now and writing weird things and different things. So like maybe another release this year. Like I want to get something else out this year, and then obviously back it up with shows.
Oh, I would love it, and if love, I know I'm not far. I'm not far from New York. I'm there. I'm in Central Jersey, so I could make the trek. But I feel like again, listening to this, it's like you want to see it live. Because I truly think I'm one of those people that you truly fall in love with certain bands or artists when you see them live. And I think if it hits as well as it does in my headphones, it's gonna be so awesome. So I'm really excited to see what comes of this.
Thank you. Yeah, we're a little heavier live. It feels like heavier, right, when you're in a
Hmm.
room, which is very exciting. So we'd love to see it.
Like I said, I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're on this episode." No, I literally have shared it with anyone I can, and even my fiance. We were at the gym yesterday because exercise is one of those things that we've done together. And since his accident and him getting back into the gym, and a huge proponent for exercise and mental health. And I had it in my headphones yesterday. I'm like, we were doing our weights. I'm like, this is the perfect music. And but then also, I just find it there's, like, especially, like, in the clouds, it's such a calming, just I don't know, it's so good, and I know it sounds so cliche to just say it's so good, but it truly is. And I just appreciate you taking the time here today and doing this. And if anyone wants to find you, I'm gonna post links, all that good stuff, but if someone just wants to listen, where can they find your music?
We're everywhere you can stream, right? All the digital platforms,
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. We're on SoundCloud, Bandcamp. But we have a website. It's ghostlytimesmusic.com. So we tend to update that first, and there's links to all those other kind of streaming platforms directly there, including like our music video for Not Alone that we just put up, and all of our older stuff as well. So yeah, the website.
Perfect. Oh, I'll link it all. But oh my gosh, thank you so much. This has been so great, and I appreciate everything you said, and I'm sure a lot of people will resonate a lot with it, and especially when it does come from a male, because men's mental health is so that's the biggest stigma right now as far as just mental health. And I think the more people we have on that talk about it, it's really going to help. And I so appreciate you taking time on a Saturday for this.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And everyone should follow, like, subscribe
Yes.
because stereotherapy is awesome.
Yes, and then go follow and go listen to Ghostly Times while you're at it. Do both. So, yeah,
We'll
for
take
sure.
it.
Oh my gosh, but I gotta go check out a Devon Rex now. That's what I gotta go do with my day. I'll be like, "That's what we're gonna go do, guys."
Do it. They're the
Oh,
best. You won't regret it.
I know. Like I said, I wanted to always have a pet, but now I've just settled on my little backyard crew, my squirrels I feed. But it's not the same. They have their little snack table, whatever I saw on Instagram, but it works for now. But I need that pet, so maybe that'll encourage that.
I hope so. I hope to see
But
both.
yes, but I know we'll talk soon, and I'll let you know when this comes out. But I thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yes. And all right, guys, that was our conversation with Anthony of Ghostly Times. Cannot thank Anthony enough for coming on the show. It was really great, one, to meet him because I've been following his band for a while on Instagram. So that's always the coolest part of meeting people after I followed them for a while. And just getting to hear his story of how music has made an impact, talk about everything behind the Mirage EP, and also talk about him in general and his own mental health journey. And I think he said a lot of important things as well. Don't forget to go check out Ghostly Times. Like I said earlier, all the links below. As for Justine and I, we will be back next week with another wonderful guest that we're really excited to share. So we have that going on. And let me know if you like these two episodes, guys. I really sometimes I'm like, I don't want to sit on these conversations. So I want to put them out two at a time, but I don't know. You got to let us know. But as always, we appreciate you guys. Keep listening to some awesome music and just get into May. I can't believe we're into May. And remember to take care of yourselves too and take some time for you guys. We will see you guys next week. All right. Bye, guys.